virtually. I can, do calls like we're doing right now. But you can't do that as a soccer team, right? You have 25, 30 players as well as support staff, so you have 35 or 40 people who every day need to get together. One of them gets coronavirus and
Alan,
everyone
are
else
you
suddenly is at risk. And
there? And were
so
you
that's one of the
talking
reasons I
earlier?
think for the
I was
suspension.
trying to.
Um, it's a
Yeah, there we
real
go. Do
it's
it.
a real
Do it now.
conundrum, and I think it can
I just
really,
think that there was a lot
really
of
hurt things.
turnover in Reno, and maybe some of it is just trying to find those pieces that fit together.
Really sorry about that.
In a month, hopefully this all kind of goes away. Do you think that they're going to try and compress the schedule to play the full schedule of games and just have more weekday games? Because there's a cost to that too, right? Like
Sure.
they're not necessarily going to fill the stadiums as well on a weekday as on a weekend. Or do you think that they'll just flop a game or two off and still try and have more weekend games?
Oh, that's rough. So the teams that it's not really going to matter for are the ones that are owned by MLS teams, right? Like
The MLS2 teams will survive because they're propped up by the mothership.
Oh my god.
well, and I don't think like if we're back in 30 days, no one's going out of business. Like that's not.
The concern is that we're not back in 30 days
No,
because
I
there are
know.
other nations who are going to suffer. And, like, for instance, the United Kingdom is predicting that they're going to hit the front load of this force in May, and that's not back in 30 days.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if we're back in 30 days, I think you kill off a gamer. Like, you scrap the rest of March, and you just go from there, and you have a shortened season, because, every league in the States has done that at some point due to a lockout or something like that. So
At least for the Eastern Conference, they don't play a balanced schedule, so it doesn't impact on the field stuff. But this is completely off the field and out of their control.
It is. And one thing St. Louis, I think they'll get creative. I think they'll do everything they can to kind of make this happen. And a lot of it is for the money reasons that Ira was talking about a minute ago. But St. Louis FC has already announced that they're not going to take part in the Open Cup. I don't know if any other clubs have said that, but
actually, the league announced that they're not going to.
Oh, got it.
So
Okay.
The all of USL, at least the professional teams. Now, I don't know if USL League 2 teams are necessarily gonna say that, but at least the professional teams have said that they're not going to.
Well, they can't.
There's a number of USL2 teams, like Tormenta 2, for example, was supposed to participate in the USL.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
As well as a number of NPSL teams.
yeah,
So.
I know. I don't think Westchester United's doing anything. I don't think Philly Lone Star are doing anything. As far as they're not, they're not having practices or anything right now. So
No, now it sounds like we're just not having an Open Cup this season.
yeah,
And if we're already condensing the USL Championship and USL League One season immensely, there is not enough time for an Open Cup.
So Ryan, that's where I want to ask you, because I assumed you'd jump right in with one of your pet peeves is not having a perfectly even schedule home and away. This really messes it up, and there may be no way to do it fairly, right, with home and away. How does that strike you?
I mean, to start, the Eastern Conference already did not have a fair Eastern Conference balance because they're playing an unbalanced schedule this year. But when you have external situations like this, I'd rather have soccer being played than not having soccer being played. And we're just going to have to look at the season with an asterisk next to it just going forward, that there are some teams that they're just not going to play every single game, or there's not going to be every team playing every other team. I would be thrilled if we just had a season here, but as of right now, I'm just not sure that we would have as much of a season left to play.
Yeah, another one I saw today that I didn't think about except peripherally, but Mike Watts put a tweet out there talking about all the broadcasters and all the people who are basically hired guns,
Freelance.
freelance guys, writers,
Hired
like
guns.
anyone that get paid, like basically per diem per thing that they do, that has to do with sports in the entire country, in the entire world. Those guys are out of the job right now. And if someone gets sick, more costs. Like, I know this is happening all over the world in a lot of different ways, but we're close to these guys, and we respect guys like Mike Watts, and so that's another one. That's another peripheral issue as far as the economics are concerned, right, Ira?
I think that's a great point, Phil, because unlike like the few people that work full time or or are on salary for like Fox or ESPN, a lot of those guys who work for Vista and ESPN Plus, they all have other jobs. They call 3-4 games a week kind of as extra income on the side, but most of them have day jobs. So one of the like Ross Davenport, for example, who he does a lot of college games down in Florida, but he also calls the Greenville Triumph games for USL League One for ESPN Plus. We've had him on our show before, but he has another day job, and that's his kind of full-time gig. And he does the play-by-play announcing and the color commentary for soccer as a kind of as a hobby job and as a job just to clip a little bit of extra money. But so he, like Phil said, he's probably not going to be getting paid, or if he is getting paid because he worked enough hours, he might be eligible for unemployment. So one of the things is for people who are lucky enough to work enough hours, they will be under most state unemployment laws eligible for unemployment insurance. That can certainly help. But if you only work, again, it's like those people who only work like 5 hours a week, they're not going to be eligible for that, right? That's properly lost income for them.
Yeah, I wonder where those broadcasters fall. I guess they have to do a lot of work, kind of like the top guys like Watts and Kerr. That's interesting. I didn't even think about unemployment. Thank goodness it's there for some of these guys, but a lot of guys are going to fall through the cracks.
I mean, even like some of the dude, like Dave Leno, who does the Union play-by-play, also does the National Lacrosse League, like box lacrosse for New York. So it's like even people that are at the higher level than USL have 2 jobs, because when you do, like I said, like when you do soccer games, and that's like where you get most of your money, like that's only gonna be 7 hours a week if you're like really up for it.
I'm trying to calculate
if you do a couple of games. Yeah, that's if
right. You know what I mean? Like that's
games,
a whole weekend for you. Yeah. And there's literally only so many games, literally only so many spots. But like they're not, it's not even like freelance writing at that point, where it's like if you really wanted to do it, you could put your head down and bang out like 30 articles in a week or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. So yeah, I mean, and I hate like doing this, and essentially we're all kind of sitting here taking the like, oh, my sports, like route, when there's a lot at stake here potentially. But yeah, like it's tough because it's weird because we know those guys, and like I don't even know, like, are USL teams planning to pay their players when they're not playing? Like, I don't really even know what the deal is with that. I hope so.
Well, there are some players I know in USL League One who basically don't. A lot of their potential income comes from appearance fees, so they have to. If they go in, they get paid an extra, $200 or $300, and if, that might be, certainly your food money maybe for a week, and
sure,
maybe a large portion of your rent. So, I think that them not playing, just it has a lot of other knock-on effects, right? Because when you just think about the way that money velocity works, get a little bit into an economic lesson here, but if an owner doesn't get in revenue, so they can't pay an employee, let's say a player, right? That player now, is going to tighten their belt and not do some of these things that then pay other people who ultimately might actually be customers and come to the matches, right? So, a lot of this money could be very circular when you think about like where a dollar is spent. Have you guys ever you guys have probably seen at some point, like you get a $1 bill or a $5 bill, and it has a stamp on it that says, type in this website and put in this dollars number. yeah, some of those things are real. A few of them are probably fake, and they want you to get to buy something. But some of them are real, and it's fascinating to see how every once in a while a dollar will circulate within, say, the same community 4 or 5 times before it leaves that community, and it's so it's important, and these clubs are important pieces of that community, because even if you think about a small club like a Greenville Triumph, they might have, with the players, they might have 50 people working for them. So
Right.
that's not a tiny small business, right? That's 25 players, 5 fullish time probably, coaching and support staff for the soccer side. Plus you have half a dozen at least front office people. So right there you have 40ish people, not including the game day staff. So so you're talking about a small business that's non-trivial, and a non-trivial part of all these communities. And real lives are being impacted by this. But at the same time, if we weren't doing this and we tried to play games, and then suddenly everyone in some fan base wound up getting the coronavirus, that's bad too. Right?
Hmm.
So we're kind of picking the kind of two bad situations, and picking the one that obviously the CDC and the government wants us to take, and that's use an abundance of caution. um, what do you guys think about when we do come back? So if we're suspending play for 30 days, do you think that the league lets teams start training again like a week before that, if it seems
Yeah,
like
I
Mm.
mean,
things are doing better? Or
no one's. I mean, I guess guys can work out or whatever, but like teams aren't doing anything, right? Like we're done.
Yeah, I think if the higher ups are not doing anything, for instance, the NBA has banned group training. So if any of the higher up leagues are not doing anything, you can almost guarantee USL is not doing that.
Right, right,
yeah,
right.
so those first couple of matches could look like preseason matches at the end
Yeah,
of the day. It could be
easily.
pretty ugly.
Not to mention the worry about if guys aren't training on their own hard enough, if they, let themselves fall down and then ramp back up real quick, injuries. I mean, we're going to see some bad stuff this year if we do
Yeah.
something like that.
Well, and then it's like, how much do guys? Well, I guess we'll find out. How much do guys fall off after a month or a month and a half when they were match fit?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Because
quite-
like
quite a
every
lot.
team got a
in a
game
month.
in, so like every team got a game in except for like Pittsburgh. So everyone's like close to at least early season match fit.
Yeah, we were supposed to. I mean, remember, we were in USL League One. We were still 2 weeks away from starting.
Right,
So for us,
right.
we were like, toward the kind of in the third trimester of preseason.
Yeah. Yeah, who knows? But yeah, do you let him? I think it really depends on how this thing kind of moves. If it's like if things start to die down and we don't see too many more cases within 21 days or so, or maybe it's market dependent. I don't know. Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, I guess you just kind of honor system. Like you're not going to do a thing where you have like everyone's got to check in online and do an hour of workout and whatever,
Yeah.
like, film it. But like honor system, kind of like when you leave for the off season, where it's like, hey, don't gain 20 pounds or else we're gonna kick your ass in training.
Yeah. There's always that one guy on the team that doesn't listen, right? And it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen for sure. But yeah, I mean, it's all very interesting because, John Howard Fusco logged in online and he was like, "This is all new territory for everyone," and that's why I love this conversation. We're just kind of stumbling on like all the many facets, and there's probably 10 or 100 times what we're talking about here. But
Yeah.
Well, when
what
you
if what if
think
Forward Madison's away kits get held up at the border or something?
Well,
Like,
when you think
Honestly,
about
this
what's
is-
going on in when you think about what's going on in Europe, the last time you had Serie A suspended, or the Premier League, it's probably going to be suspended. But when any of these leagues were suspended, the last time was during World War II, right? So that's why when I say this, we're like on a wartime footing. That is what this is very much like, both from an economic perspective, I think in some ways from a psychological perspective. If we're all cooped up and bunkered in our houses, that, like, the good thing is now compared to say World War II is that we can all have these podcasts and do these podcasts without like risking ourselves in Lim, but they're also they're also much different in terms of the fact that we could actually buy food, right? Like the best job right now is probably being a delivery person, because you can, you buy yourself all day, you're in your truck that hopefully you've sanitized, and you just drop stuff off in front of people's houses or at their front door, and you leave, right? You don't have to, you actually probably have the least risk of anyone who has to leave their house for their job. So.
If I can put out a PSA, y'all should sanitize your wallets.
Wallets, huh?
Ooh,
Sanitize your phones.
Phones and wallets. Wallets
Yeah, I did my
more
phone
so than
yesterday.
phones. Phones, I feel like people think about. Wallets, how many people have touched your debit card?
Oh man, I let a homeless guy use my phone today. I really did.
Yikes.
Time to get up all my debit cards.
Yeah, I mean, give them a wipe down. It'll be fine. People know.
But
Sell
more
cheese
so
all day.
with-
I see some
Yeah.
fucking crazy things.
Bet you do.
But more so with just sports than economics in general, this is going to be a very interesting time just for sociology of determining of how people interact with one another, because we're going to go to a time of social distancing is going to be the norm, that you're going to avoid people and you're going to hole up in your houses for as long as you can.
Well, it ends up, one of the points that I've been making, this week too, and I got some shtick from our equity strategist about this today, but I think I'm right. Like, if you think about the businesses that did well during World War II, right? They were the businesses that directly supported the war effort, and they wound up getting mostly government contracts. But in this situation, it's businesses that support kind of the culture, Ryan, like you're talking about, like being able to have the chat that we're having right now online, being able to see each other, if Ryan turned on his camera, but for the rest of us, we can see each other. And that's something that is, can be helpful for integration. Like, I work remotely a fair bit, and everyone I work with is in New York, and I'm in Princeton, New Jersey.
Right.
And one of the great things one of the great things about having video chats like this is that there's the ability to there is the ability to see each other, to actually interact and see people's faces, and know that someone's confused by something you said. For example, that happened to me the other day. I mean, it happens to me regularly, actually, but you could see their facial expressions, and that's helpful. So I wonder if in the soccer community, like, one of the things I would say, like, and maybe this is something that we could do at BGN, is try and have hangouts, basically. Maybe we could all go on Google Hangouts and just tell everyone, hey, at lunchtime today, we're all going to go in a hangout and just talk about the latest signing, or maybe something that's going on in
Your top 5 John Woniak prospects or something.
Yeah, whatever.
Nice.
Exactly.
Or not just that,
or my take that New England Revolution 2 is going to make the playoffs and North Texas SC won't. So,
Oh my gosh.
I know that I've been getting. That's what people have been saying. That's.
I'm sorry, you said earlier, Jason has the spicy takes?
Well, Jason said that wasn't a spicy take. That was just a dumb take. So.
Okay. All right.
Or not just that, it's
a fine
important
line.
now that we have technology that we can at least connect with one another online. I know now with social media, Twitter specifically, in lower division soccer, that we can all share information and connect with one another. But last time we had like a pandemic-like experience like this, there was no social media, and it's important that we still all stay connected to one another.
So the MLS Aces podcast just asked something really interesting in our chat here, and that's, he wonders if based on the field, how much more important is depth because of this situation, because like Evan or Phil, one of you guys mentioned about potential injuries and stuff,
Right.
because people aren't necessarily training all the time or in the right way. How important do you think that will be, or will the compressed schedule maybe mean people it's less important?
Well, if we compress the schedule and everyone comes back, I'd hate to be the team that wins the championship because everyone else would give out to you for it because it was a short season. But
See Liverpool in the English Premier League this year.
well, and like I don't think. Well, I mean, a better example is like the what was it? The Carolina Hurricanes in like 2005, whenever they won the cup. Ryan, you know, where it's like I don't think people cared too much that we're from that area, but everybody else was like, you only had to play 52 games or whatever it was.
The Expos got screwed out of 1994.
Oh,
I love you, Ryan. That's a good one.
I miss the Montreal Expos. Yeah, depth will be huge. I mean, well, and like, is the U.S. soccer who, are going through a little bit right now. So who knows? Are they going to allow teams to like sign players within the country? Like, is there like an emergency transfer window thing that's going to happen? Like, what is the?
Well, the Major League Soccer transfer window doesn't close until May, and I know USL League One, their transfer window doesn't close until early September. So they have plenty of time, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, presumably the championship is something similar, like
I
September.
imagine it all ends up in MLS.
Well, MLS has like a window until May, and then they have another window that opens in July. So they really only have May and June that they don't have a window, which is kind of pointless, I think.
That's fair. Yeah,
is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, depth will be huge. Phoenix is always really deep. Louisville's always really deep. Like the teams that I don't know didn't need help fielding two teams might be better off for it because they can field two teams now. Phil, I don't know if you have any thoughts on it.
No. I mean, I think about a lot of different things. It's just like there's so many variables, and I think guys will go. My big thing where I'm thinking of, if I were as an owner, I don't think I'd go all out to go sign more depth. I'd be like, this is a lost year. And whatever happens, happens. I'm not going to go like sign an extra guy or two just to make sure I do okay in a year that is such a weird like year where I could lose guys at any moment. It's just not worth the money. It's like, just roll with what you have and see what happens. And as a fan, like, we're going to be understanding of that, right? Like, we're going to be like, well, we did the best with what we were given. And I'm proud of the guys for making an effort. I'm proud of the club for doing what they did. I assume that's how everyone's going to be, especially now that we're losing the game. Like, if we get any soccer this year, I think everyone's going to be happy. If it's 10 games, if it's 20 games, like, this is only going to get worse. And so if we get any soccer this year, I'm going to be so happy.
Yeah.
And I imagine owners are seeing it the same way.
Yeah, I think people at this state will be understanding of everything, that if we get any soccer at all, well, we'll just be thrilled, and whatever happens this year, it happens. If you win the cup this year, great. If you don't worry about it. We'll be back in 2021 or so. Yeah.
You could even view this year as like, maybe it's a good year to play the kids. That would be a fun way to go about it, right? Like,
everybody MLS 2 side.
Right, exactly.
I want to see your best academy kids. Let's just make USL Championship a U23 league and see. Let's give everyone what they want. Let's give everyone a U23 league and see what happens.
I don't know. We're already looking at Premier League being voided this year, so if you want to look at it that way.
So Liverpool doesn't win the title?
Yes.
Yes, voided.
I love it.
Just think, in 30 years, they've been waiting for that, and we're just going to avoid it. They've already had reports in England that a few Premier League clubs want to void the season, including one London side, and I wonder who that could be. I say, as a Tottenham fan,
Everton.
Would I be the first person to make like a Joseph Martinez statement about coronavirus? Like,
what? You tore your ACL?
Well, like, if you're going to tear your ACL, like, the year coronavirus hits us all, this is it. He planned it. He's like league MVP for that move alone, right?
I don't know if he would feel the same way.
No, nor should anyone feel that way. It's a terrible thing to say.
Ask him. He seems like a very delightful person.
He'd be pretty open to a random guy like me coming up and asking him a question, I think.
I don't know. He wears a mouth guard.
I might get bitten.
Anyway.
Terrible thing to say,
for
the record.
Should we let Ira gracefully go before we ruin this podcast?
Any last thoughts, Ira? You got plenty
No,
of things you wanted to say
I hope
tonight.
I just hope everyone's safe, and I hope we do get to play soccer this year. And Jason and I are, we'll be tuning in here. I love what you guys do because, especially doing USL League One, I can't do much more than watch one championship game a weekend. So I'm so excited when I hear you guys talking about the league and what's going on, so I can keep up with it. So thanks very much, and hope you guys listen in on League One fun because some of these teams we're gonna have Pro Row one day, and when we do, you guys have to know the teams that are coming up.
That's right.
Oh yeah.
And when that league interleague cup happens, we got to know some of those guys too.
Yeah, maybe Jake Edwards and everyone else will have some time to plan that now over the next 30 days.
Yeah,
'cause
perfect.
They were at one point they were talking about doing it next year, right?
Take
So,
a break
Yeah, I
and
think
come
so.
back with Pro Rel. Just go on it. Go all in on it.
yeah, there you go. All right, well, thanks very much, guys.
Thanks,
Cheers, I
Ira.
appreciate it.
Ira of League One Fun. Listen to that if you
yeah.
haven't.
Yeah, it's a much better podcast than this one.
It is. It is. It's almost like they watched us fumble around for a couple of years, and we're
Yeah,
like,
for
well,
about
we
a
know
year,
what not
and
to
then
do
they picked
now.
up Jason, who's like really good at Twitter and this and whatever.
Big reporter man, Jason.
Big reporter guy. He like knows people and they like leak information to him, which would have been cool if we thought to do that the first year.
Jason, the man you could never surprise with soccer news. You just can't do it.
You can't. We've tried. It's impossible. Anyway,
I mean, I guess we recap week 1 of the USL Championship season because it might be the last one for a while.
Should we take our time on it? Should we split it up like 4 weeks of week 1 review?
I think we should really slow down. Yep. So, anyway, Philadelphia Union 2 drew Loudoun United 0-0.
Let's hear it. Did you watch it? Were you there?
I was not there. I was working. I did catch it on the after. Guys, Zach Sandy and Issa Rayon are fun to watch.
These are new guys, right? I haven't heard these names before.
No, these are the academy kids that they signed to 2 deals and then are probably going to try to bring them up to the first team next year.
Mm-hmm.
Not Cole Turner and Jack DeVries, but yeah, Issa and Zach combined for maybe the sharpest passing combination of the week in USL. And unfortunately, the ball got squared back to Benefimu, who was a center back, and didn't finish. Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Not great.
He worked his way forward, though. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, he was up there. Guys, how do we want to break this down, right?
Let's do it. I want to hear it. We got
All right.
time.
I mean, I don't know. I'll just start with the first match that I see here, and it is bang. It loads. There we go. Louisville 1-0 over North Carolina.
I watched a lot of that. It was one of the wasn't that the first? Yeah, that was the first one of the two first day games. The first day happened, and the whole after that day happened, I was like, man, I hope every game is not this cautious. Didn't that game feel cautious to you? Like both teams just didn't want to lose. It might have just been me, but it wasn't exciting per
There's
se.
a feeling out process the first month of the season or so,
Yeah.
which we'll probably get again.
Right.
Oh. But hey, no, it's a really scrappy goal. It's a very opportunistic goal by Cam Lancaster.
Mm-hmm.
The first shot gets deflected, and then he kind of finds it. And, well, from that close, it's automatic for him still.
You look at the stats, and they're, Louisville was a lot more effective as far as stats are concerned. But North Carolina is not always, like, they're not looking to win the stat sheet, so I don't really know if that even means a lot with this matchup. In a lot of ways, I would have guessed that this is the way it went down, that Louisville scraps a goal. They won the stats sheet, but, North Carolina could have easily surprised us there. But again, it was just, I really felt like a lot of it was very cautious, that no one wanted to mess up. It was a very defensive game. Defensively safe game, I should say. So,
Yeah.
Fun though. I mean, what a great matchup for day one, not compared to the other day one matchup. Which actually was a more exciting game. I shouldn't say that.
Tampa Bay did the job against Red Bull too. 1-0 there as well. Evan Loro in his return. Well, seeing his new side shuts him out, which not surprised.
Not surprised. That's what Tampa was good at last year. Defense.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Leo Fernandez. Still there. Still good.
One of the
Love to see it.
top 2 wingbacks in the league. That's pretty easy to
He's not
say,
a
right?
wingback.
He's a wingback, isn't he?
Is he? Did they turn him into wingback?
No, I think he was. I mean, wingback, he's very attacking, but I always consider him and...
Phil, I need to prove you wrong.
Okay, do it.
Yep.
I consider him and Iose playing pretty much the same role for their teams.
Oh, I do not.
Okay.
Although I'm biased because Leo was in Philly for a year.
So it's because I look at lineup
Oh, they
sheets a
did.
lot.
All right.
Lineup sheets name him as a left wing back. Let me look at Indy. What did
No,
Indy?
he is. That's where they had him lined up. So
Okay.
okay. I know he wasn't for his first couple of years, but I guess that makes sense.
Why am I not seeing a Iose? Did he not start for Indy? Holy cow.
Man's getting up there in years now.
Oh my goodness. I'm not seeing
You
him
know,
at
he's
all.
not a spring chicken anymore.
I think he's injured. He must be injured. We got to talk about that at some point. Sorry, Brian, if you hear this.
Hi, Brian.
Injury sounds familiar, to be honest, but still weird. That's a big deal if that's the case.
Oh, we'll DM Trey this
I have an inkling about Red Bull 2 that pretty much everyone
Okay.
disagrees with me on. I'm not going to
Please.
say what it is now, but I have an inkling about Red Bull
That's
2.
a weird thing to lead up to and then just not do it.
Yeah, I did it on purpose.
Okay, great. That's fine. Wait, what? No, he totally played.
Am I wrong? I'm really sorry if I'm wrong.
I think you're incredibly wrong. Hold on. Ryan, you're here, Phil.
Yes, I'm still here.
Great. Talk about anything while I find this.
I will say per
Yeah.
betting odds for Bet365, which is my go-to source for betting odds, because that's the only one that's currently available in the United States that I currently trust. Not Bet Vivada anywhere, but Tampa Bay Rowdies is the one that will return you the most amount of money if you bet $1 on them, because they return $2.75. I'm going to be tracking USL betting odds throughout the season as long as there's a season to be had.
Yeah. Thank you. That worked out. Phil, Iose goal 45 plus 3, yellow card 88.
I know what the problem is, and it is
Okay.
such a rookie mistake. We all know him as Iose, but you know what
Yeah.
his real name is?
Iose Perez.
Iose Garcia Perez. So
Oh, so you're looking for Perez?
that's what we need. A Garcia is what he's listed on here, but his last name is
Oh,
actually
gross.
Perez.
Oh.
So my mistake. He played on the right side, it looks like, but that's Google. They're probably wrong. Moving on. He played. He scored a goal. So still dominant. Still great.
That was a hell of a match, by the way. Speaking of bearing the lead, Indy 11 comeback 4-2 win
Oh
over.
my gosh.
Hey, Tim Howard wants to play still. Memphis 901 FC.
Oh my. So we have some things to say. First of all, Indy fans
Yeah.
freaking out in the first half about how terrible Indy looks, and legit, like, they looked a little bad, but they were made to look worse because Memphis had some scrappy goals. I don't think they were like incredible goals, well deserved at the same time, but you know it was 2-0 at the half if I'm not mistaken, and Indy fans were freaking out, but more than made up for it in the end, as you were saying. So.
Yeah.
There's one more thing to
Tim
talk
Howard
about as far
stands
as...
still in goal.
Say again, sorry.
Tim Howard stands still in goal.
Yeah, so I think he had the lowest player rating in the game.
In the game, yes, but if USL keepers, because this is what Ben Gershwin or Soccer Goose checked, the RGV keeper got a lower rating on FootMob than Tim Howard.
Oh, okay. And that's it? That's the only
He
one?
also has now disrespected a United States Olympian.
What did he do?
He had Matt Freese as giving up 3 goals, and he clearly confused him with somebody else.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Matt Freese called up to the Olympic team. Yeah.
Yeah.
Big deal.
Your Philadelphia Union 2 starting goalkeeper, and a very lovely person, and someone that very much confirmed to me in person that when he announced that he was going to Harvard, the Union were like, cool, we're not going to play you. Which, fair.
I guess, yeah. They want him straight in, huh?
Nah.
Well, he deserves respect. I think that's a player we should be watching a little closer
And he's
that
back.
isn't getting
he's
press.
the third string for the first team, so.
That's good.
And he's 21, and he went to Harvard. All of these things that I have not done, nor will I do, and he has done many of them.
Tyler Pasher looked incredible in this game as well.
Yep.
And I want to
Brandon
say,
Allen continues he'll be really good
Right.
for the first month and then disappear.
yeah, we'll see about that. Wouldn't be at all surprised. It's these kind of teams that kind of go looking for him, it seems like. That doesn't help either. But the other one I wanted to say is that Andrew Carlton went in like heavy on a challenge. That's something I like. Like I really liked his challenge,
I don't mind
even though it was a little dirty. But the Memphis player got up and got real pissed at him. And you know what Carlton did? He walked away laughing about it. And he didn't like get up in his face. He just like got up, walked away laughing. And I thought that was the proper response. So let's, fingers crossed, Indy's rubbing off on him a little bit. This is a good move.
Phil.
I certainly think so. Carlton definitely needs to calm down and just, I think being away from Atlanta United and the carrot of MLS will do him some good to kind of refocus his efforts on getting back to that carrot.
Hope so. That's ideal. Rooting for the kid for sure.
St. Louis FC 4. The Miami FC won.
Miami's not as good.
Well, I have a lot of thoughts.
Okay.
Cut me off if I go too long.
Nope, you have the floor.
Miami came in. They were not ready for the speed of play, which is fine. We all suspected this would happen, and we're all in St. Louis after this game. So it was 4-1. St. Louis kind of destroyed Miami. A lot of it was that they came out hot in the beginning, and then their subs kind of took them out in the end as well. And then the middle was pretty tough. But Miami came in. I don't think they were ready for the speed of play. I'm not sure they were ready defensively either. And it was an interesting, it's an interesting matchup because I do think Miami's trying to play pretty. I think they're trying to play possession soccer. They didn't go direct hardly at all. And I would say the times they were most effective against St. Louis is when they were direct. And I do want to just say one thing about this is that St. Louis is a bad matchup for them in general. And I think them going up against St. Louis in the first week was really tough for them. Like, really tough. Like, St. Louis is going to be really compact. We're going to be direct. We're going to counterattack. We're going to press high and force you to have your stuff together in week one as far as playing out of the back. And they just weren't there. All those things combined, like, Miami was not ready for all of that. And St. Louis just really was the perfect antithesis to what they were prepared for in week one. So, talking to a lot of friends around the USL, I think Miami has the personnel to be something special and something great. It's just now that they know what the speed of play is, give them about 5 weeks to catch up to that, and then give them another, let's say, 10 weeks to figure out how to play possession soccer in the USL. And I think they could be something really special, if not this year, next year, assuming we play a season this year, of course. But, it was just a bad matchup for them this week. The last thing I will say is that they came out in the second half just pinging balls, one touch and go. And you could tell that they knew what they needed to improve on. and they played really fast for a little while, and St. Louis was scuttling for a little bit, and then they kind of caught up. So anyway, I really do think that that's all it is, and Miami will be good later. But right now they're not ready, and they'll need a few weeks to catch up.
And to quote Ferris Bueller, life comes at you pretty fast, Miami.
Well done.
First goal for St. Louis is some of the worst defense to goalkeeper back passing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
2, indirect free kick goal. Love it.
Yeah.
3, it's not going to matter because they have a month and everyone will forget. But they subbed off Lance Roseboom, who was their captain, right at the half.
Here's the.
It's not great.
Yeah, and I did have something to say about that. They're playing Bezecourt as like a 8-10.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I saw the lineup. Sorry?
Play him as a 10.
Fine. I mean, but Velasquez is on the wing, and I have a lot of ideas why they did that, but I'm not sure they were defensive enough in this game.
So in their, what is that, 4-1-4-1 lineup on USL's chalkboard,
Yeah.
I'm dropping, well...
I'm sure it's a 4-2-3-1 in a lot of ways.
Well, like, if you're going to play 4-1-4-1, move Velasquez over. Like, switch Velasquez and Roseboom.
Mm-hmm.
And then drop Roseboom to the 6, essentially, where Heath is. And then find another winger.
That's kind of, yeah.
Like, put Bezecourt and Velasquez next to each other, have Roseboom behind them, and then have somebody out in the wing.
I did think Heath did an okay job. St. Louis really nibbled on the wings, and we kept I think they pinned back the fullbacks. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure Miami
and, like,
got to do what they wanted, so that might be another side. But I agree with you, to be honest.
Lawrence Elam and Lloyd Sam are going to get eaten alive by any team that has speed.
So I was curious about that. I don't know them very well. I knew Lloyd Sam's name, but I don't know much about
they're
him.
just old.
Okay.
Like, Lawrence Elam is like former MLS first team, like has done really good stuff in the past, but he's like 34.
Mm.
You know? And like, not that guys can't, like, Chad Marshall was in the MLS forever. Like, there's Jeff Lorenowitz is like 38 and still plays really well. But it's like, it's making up for those guys not having pace by putting guys around them, and I don't necessarily see that out of Miami.
Mm-hmm.
Again, not that it matters. We have a month to figure this out and come back at it. But
That's true.
Whatever.
I think before we move on, the last thing,
Yeah.
I did say this before. The stats were pretty insane for St. Louis. 20 shots, 13 on goal. They don't care about possession. The passing accuracy was pretty close as far as that.
Yep.
And, man, St. Louis looked incredible against Miami. I don't think they're going to be tested again, assuming everything stays the same. In 2 weeks, they're supposed to play Indy. This weekend they were supposed to play Memphis. So Indy would be a really good test for St. Louis to actually tell whether they're really good or not. They started good last year, and then we saw what happened. So, basically I'm just saying don't get your hopes up about St. Louis, even though it looks pretty good at this point.
Charlotte scored 3 times in a match they won 2-1 in a game where who in the world? You guys wear blue and you guys wear blue, do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kit clash was certainly something.
Like, in person, I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah.
On
But-
TV, when you
Yeah.
take into account the shadows and the sun, it's
Oh
not.
my god.
Why
And,
didn't
like-
one of these teams just wear white on their jerseys?
Yeah. Speaking of bad goalkeeping, boy howdy, that first Charlotte goal. Sorry, that first Charlotte goal they scored in their own net. Or
Yeah.
in Sporting Kansas City's net. That was not great.
I think
St.
it was
Louis.
best summed up by someone on Twitter, I believe. Alex Warren, who's another Soccer and Tweety person, said that the Charlotte goals that was first scored was best summed up if they would play yakety sax
Yeah.
to that beat of that goal.
I felt bad. It's the first pro game for Jack Mayer.
Yep.
And he He's got U20 minutes. He's got U23 minutes. Went to Indiana and did incredible there. Was the captain in his second year. And then Generation Adidas second pick in the super draft, but loaned away from Nashville. They didn't like him
and
enough.
Paired with one of the best defenders in USL and Hugh Roberts.
Yep, they're a good combo. I think they complement each other, but in your first game,
again, a statement that won't matter for a month. But yeah, they'll be fine.
Well, I mean, we could put that asterisk on everything we say tonight, I suppose.
I just like putting it there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, poor Jack. I'm rooting for that guy. I really want him to do well.
Enzo looked sharp.
Enzo looked sharp. He looked like the same old Enzo for sure.
Yeah.
Hasn't lost a step.
Enzo Martinez playing for Mike Jeffrey's side, and that's I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm. Dane Kelly? What'd you think about Dane Kelly?
Yeah, I mean, get stuck in, get that 30th minute yellow.
I saw that too. Yeah, I liked that for sure. But I wasn't sure if he was frustrated. That's not good if that's the case.
Well, he did really well to get the goal.
He did, and that's the thing is is he just that guy that shows up when he needs to and he's good? That's fine too, isn't it?
Brandon Allen kind of thing.
Exactly. I mean, exactly like Brandon Allen.
I guess is a Brandon Allen thing.
I thought the thing with Dane Kelly though is you counterattack over and over and over, he's going to get his goal by the end of the game. You know what I mean? And that's not exactly what Charlotte did. They did a little of that. Well, a lot of that, but I don't know. I thought it would be more consistent. I wasn't sure what Charlotte was going for in that first game. Exactly.
Well, I mean, it worked for him.
It did. It did. Rooting for Charlotte. I want them to be solid this year. I want them to go from this to even better. I want them to.
Yeah.
I believe Charlotte will actually make the playoffs.
I think so too. Practicality is their thing. Stick to what you're good at. Get it done.
And then your last Eastern Conference game of the week, Charleston Battery won. Atlanta United 2-0.
Solid win for Charleston.
Zyko Lewis, baby.
Get the penalty.
That's going to be, he's one of those guys where I'm like, yeah, Zyko Lewis.
Yep.
It'll click. He'll get there. And I think he will. And I still, that press conference when he got drafted is still one of my favorite things in U.S. soccer. But he'll play well in this system. He's not a typical Anheuser 6'3" forward, Romario Williams style, whatever. But I think they can play around him.
Oh, for sure. I think he'll have the freedom.
Balls in lower than they're used to.
He'll have the freedom to do his thing, and I think that's what's important. It reminds me of I think he didn't thrive here as much, honestly, but when Guerra was kind of there playing as their 10, he just kind of had freedom to go where he needed to score goals, and I see Lewis doing the same thing. Can we mention for a second here that this is this half of the show is a bit of a revival of Eastern Conference Confidential?
Yeah, if anyone knows what that means, go for it.
About 2 people do.
Yeah, we're both here. Hi, Phil.
Yeah.
Ryan was in it.
I know, Ryan's here too. I know.
Brandon was in it as well.
Phil, listen.
I
know.
You made it happen. I had to really think about. I felt like there was more of us, but it wasn't. It was just us
Brandon.
3.
Yeah, Doherty was there
from
for a hot
Rochester.
You're right, but he was only in for 1/3 of the season I joined, so
Yeah.
that's why I don't remember that. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Brandon Doherty, man, what is he up to?
Well, I have no idea.
That is old school USL talking right there.
It really is.
Doherty's the USL show 1.0 boy.
Yeah.
So
Honestly, if you would have told me 2015 would have been old school, I don't know what I would have responded to.
Isn't that funny? It's funny.
It was just 5 years ago.
I just can't believe that we do twice this every week. That felt good, getting those games out of the way and actually being able to talk about them. That was nice. Right?
And being done in half an hour.
Yeah. I feel like it's 1 a.m. and it's not.
No, it's only 8 after 11. But
perfect.
that means it's time to get out of here. So feel free to follow us on the Twitters and things at the USL Show. I said it for Views from the Bridge. I will say it here again, just because it's also true. If you want us to talk about anything, if you want us to like anything, as long as it's USL related or cheese. If you want top 10 lists, if you want retrospectives, if you want us to try to talk to players or coaches about said retrospectives, if you want us to try to start doing sportscaster things and watch matches as a group, we will certainly have the time to figure that out.
Now is the time.
You know? So
I thought you were going to encourage everyone to wash their hands, but yeah, that works.
I will also encourage you to wash your hands, to cover your fucking mouth when you cough, to sanitize things. Don't panic buy 12 cases of eggs. It's not going to change anything. I will also say that blue cheese has penicillin in it.
Oh,
That's
I
vegan.
like this.
So, you know, it's healthy for you. It's not. But if you are looking for something to keep in your fridge for a couple months, cheese.
Love
If
it.
you get mold, it's probably just on the surface, so you just scrape it off, and then you're set. It's a new face.
Keep it in your basement if you have to.
Yeah, whatever. Cheese don't care.
No one in,
Hard
no one
cheeses,
in
sorry.
Coastal Carolina has a basement.
Please don't keep Breeze for a month. They will get moldy. More moldy than they already are. Great. Thank you. Those have been your cheese tips for today. If you want to follow me for I guess now mostly cheese things, I'm also playing a Football Manager 2020 save with Hull City that I guess I'll start updating people on. So far, so good. At Speak Kevin Speak. Phil, where can people find you for quick plumbing tips? And I don't know, are you gonna start posting like 90s covers?
No, I will not be doing that. You have to come to St. Louis for that.
Well,
At
that'll
Phil
be tricky.
Grooms, 2 L's, 2 O's.
Right. Ryan, other than discovering new parts of the state that you're in via webcam, where can people find you, and what will you be doing with this new unexpected free time that you now have?
You can find me on Twitter at ILM_Ryan, and I have started an off-stream or off-recording broadcast or save of Football Manager with Borussia Mönchengladbach, and I will probably be starting an on-stream save with either some random USL team to play out the season, or with some Scottish.
Fair enough.
Dope. Thanks for listening,
We'll talk
everyone.
to you guys next week for sure. I don't know in what capacity, but I don't think all of us can go more than a week without talking to each other, so we won't. Until then, take care. Thanks for joining us.